Mark Adams, thanks for doing this.
I'm looking forward to it.
Coach, you were a guy that came to Little Rock staff, and you already had 25 years of experience whenever you come to Little Rock. I guess, do they kind of educate the audience? I'm sure a lot of them are going to know, but just remind people of your background, where you kind of started in college basketball and where you were right before you came to Little Rock.
Well, when you have experience, it wasn't always good experience, but I was the head coach for 25 years, and I started at a young age. I was 25 when I was head coach at Clarendon College. I was there a couple of years, and then I went to Wayland Baptist for 4, and then to West Texas at Division II for 5 years, and then down at Pan American, which is in the Sun Belt, and I was there 5 years, and then because of some health reasons with my children, I got out of coaching, went back to West Texas, missed it, and then I went back to Howard College for 9 years, and then with Tubby at Texas Tech as in a kind of a director of basketball ops position, and then Beard hired me at Little Rock, and so it kind of started over there, and that was a fun year, and I probably grew more as a coach in that 1 year than I did any other time.
And explain to people, you knew Chris before that season. How did y'all's relationship begin?
Patrick, I can't remember when Chris and I first met, but I love Coach Bob Knott. Studied him all through my career, and just loved his philosophy on defense. So every chance I got, I'd try to, at that time I was out of coaching, and I would sneak over and watch practices, and I got to know Coach Beard at that time. And then we just developed a friendship. I also had a hockey team, and so he'd come watch hockey, and some of the assistant coaches would. And then a few years later, I went back to Howard College, and so he started recruiting some of our players. And so we always talked basketball, and our friendship grew. We went to a lot of movies together and hung out, and Coach Beard, even back in early 2000. As we grew and I started coaching at Howard, he helped me a lot with basketball as well. So even at that early relationship with him, I knew he had a great basketball mind, and I stole as much as I could from him.
I read somewhere, and you tell me if this is false, that the Little Rock season was the first season you'd coached outside of Texas. Is that true or false?
That is true. It is true. So it was a new experience. It was an adventure for me coming out to Little Rock and being on a staff where I was assistant coach. But there were some strong personalities in that staff as well. When we started with the head coach, I had no idea that Chris Beard had the had that leadership and had the just the direction he gave the team, and he was a master at building cultures. And that culture, when you build a culture, all it does is create behavior, and he created this winning behavior with high expectations. And so for all of us, we grew together, but it started with him. And then, of course, Wes Flanagan is from that area. His dad's a legend there at the high school and in Little Rock. And Wes is a defensive guy, and was just a no-nonsense, let's get after it, and very emotional on the floor. And so, again, I picked a lot from him. And then, Brian Berg was kind of more of a teacher, and he was great with the guys. And so with all that, with these 4 personalities, mine included, we were always swapping ideas, and we had to defend what we believed in. So I had to kind of rethink, is this what we want to do? And this is why I do things. And so it was fun, but also at times a little bit stressful because each one of us believed in certain things. But it made for a great setting to have a great defensive team because everybody bought into defenses. And when your head coach wants to play good defense, that trickles down to the entire team.
Once you guys had the roster assembled, because you guys had a collection, it was seven guys back from the previous team. You had 10 newcomers, so a pretty big new roster. What were your impressions of the team, specifically on the defensive end of the floor, early? Like in those early practices, are you looking at this group and thinking, man, this is a squad that has potential? Or are you looking at this group and thinking like, man, this is a squad that has a long ways to go?
A lot of people are surprised. I never look at a team as far as potential on the defensive end. It always goes, how can we score? How well can we score? And this team was unique because we had 10 or more guys that could shoot threes. And so we knew we had a high ceiling because we could score. And I've said this, for years now. I mean, offense, if you've got a great offense, you can knock people out. And defense keeps you in the game. But teams that can score and score will have a chance to go on and win championship and cut down nets. And even when I saw the Stars and started watching this work, I knew that this team had the potential to do something great. And then with Coach Beard's coaching and the influence that he had and the way our guys work, we had great work ethic. The guys were in the gym every day shooting. And so, it was a foundation to really build upon. And now the only negative of that, guys that love offense, they don't really like defense. So we had to convince them to do that. And we did that through a lot of drills to build the right habits. And as you looked at this roster and this team, as it started playing games, we got better and better and better at defense.
Yeah, defensively, I mean, to me, where it really shows was that game. You have a couple of early non-conference wins against teams that you would expect to beat, I would think it's fair to say. Then you go to San Diego State, you have the win there. You hold them to, I think it was 43 points. I think it was 49-43 or 49-46, very low-scoring game, but really put the clamps on them defensively. You have that win at Tulsa in the non-conference where they have the big lead in the first half, but defensively in the second half, you really put on a show. And
yeah, that San Diego State was probably that was. If you look at this team, that game, other than Purdue, was probably, in my opinion, was the biggest game because we had to go to San Diego State. I think their winning percentage at home was like 92%. The odds were against us, but what was important is that our guys thought they could win, and Coach Beard made a big deal about choosing to win. And before that game, I mean, you could put a lot of extra tests on each one. We all felt like we were going to win the game. And again, the credit goes to our coaching staff and to Coach Beard to get them guys to believe that, look, this is a game that's winnable, and we're going to go win. We're not coming here just to play and playing close. And late in the game, we were in a position to win, and Josh Hagans kind of took over and made some big plays. But, that was an unbelievable defensive performance. And I think a lot of it, too, a lot of times a patient offense leads to a good defense. And we were very deliberate and very patient, had a great game plan.
A lot of people now associate you with the no middle term defensively. That's kind of what you've become known for. Was that a big part of this Little Rock? I remember vaguely hearing that kind of concept in practice. I don't know, am I right in saying it wasn't quite as intentional as was at Texas Tech? Or what was the defensive philosophy of this team, if there was one?
I think for all the coaches, we all believe that you influence baseline. You didn't give up the middle, and that was one of the non-negotiables, that we just didn't want to give up the middle drive. After we got to Texas Tech, I think going in our second year, we made a decision to make that more even a situation where it was, if you got beat middle, you were coming out of the game. So, but even at Little Rock, we were, for the most part, we were a gap team, no paint, no middle.
And another big part of your role on this team, you're a big part of the defense. You're also the substitution guy. And I was talking to Roger Woods, and I don't know how we got on this topic exactly, but he was talking about early in the year that he wasn't playing as much as, of course, he thought he should have. And I will say, I expected him to play more early, too. I can remember a game.
So you were questioning what we were doing, basically.
I was like, what is going on with this app? No, I remember a game against East Carolina where Roger played like, I could be wrong, it was like 6 minutes or something. And I can remember thinking like, wow, I thought Roger was going to be a bigger part of the team. Now we're winning games. It's not a criticism. It was just kind of an observation of like, wow, this team is winning without Roger. Obviously, he became a tremendous part of that team. But Roger was saying that he felt like early in the year, he had a tough time connecting with you as his assistant coach. Now, eventually, you guys became very close. And he said that you're maybe the assistant he talks to the most. But was he a guy that, What do you remember about his evolution as a player, both offensively and defensively?
Well, I mean, with players, your strengths can be the weaknesses. His strength was he was a little bit hard-headed, had a lot of pride, great competitor. He was 6'5", 230. He could guard him down on the floor, and tremendous offensive player. But he hadn't bought into defense. And as coaches, change is hard. And so as our staff, we were kind of basically tell Roger that, what you're doing now is unacceptable. We want more out of you. And so you've got to show it on the defensive end so you can play offense. And we stuck to that. And, Patrick, I love Roger and have a lot of respect for him. But I remember there was a time, it was probably early December, talking with Roger and saying, Roger, if you'll just trust us and just buy in, you've got this unbelievable potential and talent to play defense. You can guard anybody on the floor. And I said, if you'll do that, I promise you, you and I we're going to cut down the nets, and then I'm going to come up and give you a hug. And, looking back to my career, that was one of the moments that I do remember when we did cut down the nets in the Sun Belt Conference tournament and looking for him and finding him and just going up and said, Roger, do you remember us having that talk? And he gave me a big smile. We hugged each other and told each other we loved each other. But I was so proud of him because he bought in, he trusted the coaching staff, and he became the player that we knew he could be. It just took him a while to get there. But I think that game against Monroe, I think he had 19 points and just took the game over the last 10 minutes of the game.
Was there a guy on this roster who from day one, as a player, set the tone defensively?
I know there was a time, some of these memories come back that we were, it might have been in November, early October, that Coach Beard just stopped practice. And I think our athletic director might have been walking by, and he got after Josh Higgins like I've never seen. I mean, just drilled him and said, you're supposed to be the leader on this team. You're the best player on the team. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. You're not leading by example. And it was so vivid in my mind. But at that point, I think it was a turning point for Josh Higgins. And then he started moving in the direction, sometimes a great leader is just follow the coach. And when you have so many returners like Josh and Roger, one of the challenges, these guys, they're used to playing a certain way. And Coach Shields is a great coach and we had a great nucleus back, but it's a different style. And great players need to also be great followers. And at that time, I think he started following Coach Beard, followed what we wanted, listened, and then he took off and became that leader that we talk about. And Roger was one of those guys. He was one of the bigger guys on the team, the toughest guys on the team. And then once we got him to trust what we were doing and believing in our system, it was contagious, and he was able to make sure the other guys doing what we wanted done.
The big guys inside, I'm thinking of Liz Shoshi, I'm thinking of Daniel Green. What was their role like in this defense, and what type of impact did they have, and what type of distance did they have to travel to get to where you wanted them to be defensively?
Well, we had a team with really a lot of guards, a lot of big guards. Even like Mawson was a big guard that could really shoot. Reese could really shoot it, and but with Liz and Daniel, they were our big guys that had to sometimes just guard the post and protect the rim, and so they were a valuable part of it because we needed their height just out on the floor at times as rim protectors and to kind of be our enforcer, and they both accepted that role. The thing about Liz Socius is he could shoot threes, and he did at Howard College and had a great coach there in Coach Raines, and so I got to follow him and was instrumental in recruiting him. But great attitude. He got bigger and he got stronger, and you just see he got better and better as the year went on, and he was an important part that went against DePaul, or not DePaul, against Purdue.
A couple of defensive stretches in the season that we were talking about this before we aired. I wanted to kind of bring up to you. We talked about the San Diego State holding them to 43 points. We play East Carolina in Las Vegas, hold them to 46. We won that game. I want to say we made 15 shots the entire game, but made 20 of 22 free throws or something, held East Carolina to 46 points. We have a couple games in Sun Belt play where we hold Troy to 49 and 43. I know you said earlier you kind of start with kind of looking at what the team has on offense. Do those types of low-scoring games as sort of this defensive guru guy, like, does that excite you, or are you kind of like,
It excites me, probably not the fans or the players, but, our goal is to hold them under 60. And again, but a lot of a good defense starts on the offensive end. We did a great job of controlling the ball and taking good shots and getting back on defense, and so it was a very disciplined team, which always helps your defense. So you got to give a lot of credit on how we moved the ball and didn't take bad shots, and we were able to control the game, the tempo on both ends of the floor because of that. And yeah, those are some great games. Some of those teams we played, like San Diego State, they were a defensive minded as we were, and so it was a little slower tempo, which really was in our favor.
At Staley Electric, we don't mind getting our hands dirty. That's just who we are. What started in R.E. Staley's garage in 1951 has grown to a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week residential, commercial, and industrial electrical company. From changing out a ceiling fan in your home to building a school in your community, Staley Electric will deliver the electrical solutions you expect and deserve. Visit our website at StaleyElectric.com.
The ULM game, the Sun Belt Championship game, hold them to 17 points in the second half, 7 made shots, 7 turnovers. To me, that was arguably the best half of basketball we played all season long. I think we scored 42 points. We were down 5 at halftime, ended up winning the game by 20. But before we get to that, I mean, this was a team that in Sun Belt play, they nearly beat Little Rock at the Jack Stevenson. I don't know if you remember, they had the 2 shots kind of there at the rim. They end up beating us in Monroe. I want to say they scored 86 points, which was the most we'd given up that year. What made them, in your eyes, such a challenging matchup for Little Rock?
Well, Coach Richard is a really good coach, and a little difficult, more challenging to probably recruit good players at Monroe than we had at Little Rock. But he had a very good team, a veteran team, and they had a lot of guards. So part of the issue or challenge was we didn't match up well with them. But they had a point guard that was I think he was averaging 5 or 6 assists a game.
Nick Capola, I believe.
Yeah. And they had Robertson, who was really, really good, and I think he's still playing pro ball now overseas. But the game that in that championship game at halftime, when we went to halftime, very few times were we down, and this is a situation where all we talked about is going to the NCAA tournament. It was such a big game, and we didn't get an at-large bid, and we had so much pressure on us to win. And there was a different look at halftime, a little bit of with fear, because we looked at fear of failure, that we were going to get this done because Monroe played so well the first half. And again, I give so much credit to Coach Beard because he came in at halftime. And, he could have said, hey, guys, you're hanging in there. We're doing okay. And this is going to work out. But, I mean, he lit into him and said, guys, this is unacceptable. This is not who we are. We're not playing our type basketball. We got to be more aggressive. And we went out that second half. And, in fact, it's kind of funny. Coach was really articulate and emotional. And he took his right hand and hit the board to try to make a point. And so we get back out there, we're standing around before the second half, and he said, I'm right next to him. He said, I think I broke my hand. And he did. And I still claim that's the reason why we won, because he didn't have to coach as much as he couldn't write with his right hand, so we won. But we just took over that second half. Again, Roger played really well, but defensively, we kept the ball out of Robertson's hand, and we contained their point guard, and so they couldn't move the ball as well. But what a great win and victory that was, and get to cut down the nets, and everything came to fruition, everything we talked about early, and here we are going to the NCAA tournament.
And speaking of the NCAA tournament, the big win against Purdue, my memory of going to the Purdue game was just the size that they were able to put on the court against Little Rock. What is your memory of the defensive game plan or strategy going into that one?
Well, I mean, Purdue is known for their size and getting the ball in the paint and getting it to their unbelievable post players. And so we had to come up with a game plan to double and triple team their posts when they got it. And our guys did a great job, but we were outmanned the whole game. What impressed me the most again was just our guys, the relentlessness to never give up and to keep believing they could win, even being down. late in the game, it got to a situation where we were having to be real aggressive, and they were playing not to lose, and so we got them second guessing themselves a little bit, and then Josh made those big shots, but you still go back to our guys just they just wouldn't give up, and with Coach Beard's leadership, it goes to overtime. It's just an unbelievable win for us, maybe the best in Little Rock's history, I guess.
Yeah, I would say it's at or near the top of the list. I'm going to give you a few quick ones here at the end. Let you get out of here. Who are your biggest coaching influences?
Well, I have to start with Harold Wilder, who was was the head coach at Howard College. Really smart guy, took me under his wing. I didn't know anything about basketball, but he probably taught me as much as anybody at that time. When I look back, the guys I studied, Gerald Myers at Texas Tech, I was an understudy with him. I mentioned Bob Knight. Eddie Sutton was another guy that was very instrumental in. So those, and then when I look through, after Coach Beard's been a huge impact on my life as a friend and also as a coach. He's just just feel blessed to be able to continue to work with him. But I'd say those are the guys that I studied the most, and the only other one that I'd probably would mention would be a guy that's the coach. Ben McCullough is another one that I'd like to mention. He's another guy that's helped me late in my career. He's at Iowa right now.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Green. Steve Green's a guy that I've known forever. He won three national championships, been one of my best friends. And then Rick Cooper, my longtime assistant. So I don't want to leave too many guys out, but for those 6 or 7, you're always just a combination of people that are helping you steal and borrow from coaches. And I could not be where I am without those guys' help and influence and all.
You mentioned earlier, I think you said something to the effect of, I maybe grew that season as a coach as much as any season I've had. How did that season help you grow so much as a coach?
Well, Patrick, and go back to the people I was around, and being in a situation where I was an assistant coach really for the first time, a true assistant. So that was a huge change for me, and I had to make that transition to being a better follower, and I'm a little hard headed at times as well. But then again, just the influence I had from Wes and Brian, and then with Coach Beard, and then these players, they work so hard, and it was an inspiration to me because we were in the gym all the time, and again, Ted Crass and John Trilly were great at. They were on the staff, and their enthusiasm and energy, and it was a staff that had a purpose. We were all there. Everybody made some sacrifices to be there. And we had a common goal. We believed in that goal. And Coach Beard put in that process and said, look, you do this, this, and this, you're going to get there. And to see that all happen, and to see the joy in their faces. And then for me to learn that, as Coach Beard, keep high expectations, push those guys, believe in what you're doing, and great things can happen.
What was your favorite win that season, aside from the Purdue win?
I could probably tell you the win that I did enjoy the most was DePaul, because we were at DePaul, and this didn't what you asked, but we were there, and we were on a Friday, played on a Saturday, I believe that's right, and we were in a barbecue restaurant, and I'm sitting at the front, and the team and Coach Beard's at the very back, and I'm just talking to one of the assistant coaches. Then all of a sudden, Beard says, "Is that right? Isn't that right, Coach Adams?" And you're going to agree with the head coach. I said, "Sure, Coach." And then everybody starts laughing, and I said, "What did I just agree to?" And Coach Beard had promised the guys, if we beat DePaul, that he and I are going to get tattoos. And so, DePaul is a really good team, obviously, and we're huge underdogs playing them at their place in Chicago. And at halftime, we're up 20. So it's probably the first time in my coaching career that I wasn't sure if I wanted us to win or lose on that game, because I didn't want that tattoo, but obviously we won, and then I had to get a tattoo later on. The biggest win, I would say, would be the championship game against Monroe. And then I tell you, another really big game was Tulsa. When we beat Tulsa, they had a really good team. We did not match up with their guards. They're a very explosive team offensively. And I thought we had a very unique game plan to control those guards, and our guys just did an excellent job there. And you beat San Diego State, and then go beat Tulsa at Tulsa, and that gave us a lot of confidence just moving forward.
That Tulsa game got down, I think, 15 points in the first half of that one.
We were down.
And you kind of touched on this earlier. I'm getting us off track a little bit, but I did want to make this point or ask you your opinion. This team's ability, confident, really just a combination of strengths on offense and defense. They could get stops, they could score points, and I think that really manifested in its ability to go on runs. I had someone, I can't remember who I was talking to, where they were talking about a team that can go on runs, and they said, what's really the key to that? And I was like, well, I mean, it sounds elementary, but you got to be able to do both. You got to have a team that can score points. You got to have a team that can get stops. I'm sure you've been a part of teams that could do one but not the other. It's tough to break off those 10, 12-point runs, but as I look back through the season, there were a lot of games or a number of games, I want to say 7, where Little Rock overcame double-digit deficits. And part of that was their ability to go on those 10, 12-point runs. And
again, going back to what I said earlier, our defense would keep us in the game, but then you had so many guys that, like a Marcus Johnson, could go rattle off 10, 12 points, or Molassic could hit some threes, and you had Lesosha, who could get going, along with Josh Higgins and Rogers. So a lot of offensive power. Reese could get. There's a game on the road against. It might have been Troy that he played extremely well. South Alabama, and came in second half, made some big shots for us. So we always had that. Those weapons, and we just, if one or two guys wasn't playing well, we always had somebody step up and play. So we had 10 guys. That's another talk about the substitutions, is that we believed that we could wear people down by playing a lot of guys, and we got our guys to believe in that, even though Roger didn't at times. But moving those guys in and out and keeping that intensity going, and making the offense uncomfortable because of our defense. We had a lot of firepower, and with our depth in our athleticism, it really gave teams problems.
I'll let you get out of here on this one. If someone asks you, what made that Little Rock team so special, what's your answer?
I think it's a accumulation of great leadership with Coach Beer, one of the best staffs I've ever been a part. We talked about the offensive talent, but then the grit and the determination and that competitiveness of an entire squad, and how, I didn't even remember Jermaine Rutledge was another guy we didn't talk about, Marcus Johnson. But these guys loved to win, and they expected to win, and they never gave up. We were just relentless. We got on the floor that we were going to find some way to get the job done, and I think that's what made this team really special.
Coach, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. I know you're a busy guy. I know you got a lot going on. I know the fans appreciate it. This is a really special team to the school and the Little Rock community, and you were a big part of the success, and we just want to say thank you for it.
Well, I feel blessed to be a part of it, and great memories. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.